Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting us. It's obviously such an honor to be part of this event. My name is Laura Migliano, and she is Giorgia Petri. We are the founders of Kalembur. Kalembur is a contemporary art project founded in 2014, following the drafting of the final master thesis in new technologies at the Academy of Fine Arts in Milan. Before the master degree in new technologies, I graduated in philosophy and media, and Giorgia graduated in aerospace engineering. This different background has been central in our working relationship, from the very beginning. Her method, her vision, her way of working and perceiving the silent things of everything around us is different but complementary to mine. This transdisciplinarity is what we have always tried to maintain in our artistic research. I've done this introduction to highlight how the topic we are discussing today is an open problem and transversal to all disciplines and human fields. So we would like to introduce the focus on the formation of complex systems, starting from simple structure, a topic that we are really passionate about from our first work. It was an interactive installation based on the morphogenesis study by Alan Turing. The media we had chosen for the audiovisual interaction was the water. The main focus of the artwork was, as I said, the Turing study of morphogenesis, which is the process that leads to develop a specific shape or structure. In biology, morphogenesis is the development of the shape and structure of an organism. In 1952, Turing had published a work on the chemical basis of morphogenesis, the process by which identical cells are able to differentiate themselves through osmosis and the intervention of inhibitory and exciting agents. He described how, in circular arrays of identical biological cells, diffusion and can interact with chemical reaction to generate up to 6 periodic spatiotemporal chemical structure. The chemical implication of this process also concern, of course, natural patterns, like mantle of zebras, giraffes, cheetahs, the corolla of a sunflower, the shell of a snail, and any shape in nature that has the precise repeating geometries, these perfect patterns that we struggle to imagine, not made by graphic software. From the moment this theory came in, it was used to try to systemize the knowledge related to the pattern present in the most disparate fields, from chemical reaction to cardiac arrhythmias, passing through semiconductors or sociological studies. Our installations included 6 water tanks, each of which represented the 6 equilibrium states of the algorithm. Each tank was associated with a generative sound and a visual pattern. And when a person dipped a finger into a tub, sound and visual were activated. Several trays also could be activated at the same time. We use this interaction both as an interactive installation and as an audiovisual device for live performances. The first work has allowed us to investigate more and more deeply how, both in nature and in every sphere, complex structure almost always emerge from the interaction between single sample elements. As morphogenesis, complex behavior has to do with unpredictability and complexity. Terms that, well, for ANSI today take on a special relevant value. Everything around us appears unpredictable and complex, both as individuals and as a society. And everything around us has to do with emergency, which is not a situation of crisis or danger, but the emergence of new and relevant phenomena and epiphenomena. As I said before, in our artistic research, we have often faced the question of complexity, starting from simple situation. Another example is a work presented in 2017 in Milan during an event called XX, that is Electropark Exchange. The work is called Hertz, and is the audiovisual transposition of brain interactions at the level of beta and gamma waves. The visual part of the work is based on the organized movement of the flocks of birds, which change geometry and shape according to motion of internal aggregation. Above all, they are organized in such a way that the single bird, which itself will follow different routes, within the flock becomes a complementary part of the movement of the others. A unique, complex, and unpredictable movement made possible by the union of the flock. It is exactly, as you know, the principle of complexity and emergent behavior that emerges from the interaction between individual parts. But the same goes for synapses. Neurons work in a very elementary way. They are either on or off. But what happens at the level of synaptic connection is something shocking on the level of complexity. Specifically, beta and gamma waves are those that reveal the state of meditation, or on the contrary, of consciousness and wakefulness of our neural system. Therefore, if our emotional state is calm, the flock follows pleasant and harmonious geometries. While if it's watchful and heedful, the flock becomes scattered and confusing. And the sound feedback is associated to the visual and emotional state. I will show you. Okay. Thus, what happens to the wearer of the device that detects the waves is a first moment of viewing and listening, yeah, but then a second moment of concentration takes over with the intention of guiding and monitoring one's mood to manage the audiovisual interaction. This part, which we have always encountered, has served us to reflect on two things closely connected with the emergent behavior. On one hand, a clear gamification emerges, even when the intention of the work is openly speculative. But of course, it looks like a device more than an installation, so we knew we will get this result. About that, one of the most acute theories regarding the relationship between technological devices and new forms of social interaction is gamification. It is not a coincidence that one of the first example of theory of complexity was John Conway's Game of Life, in which a few simple rules set for a few basic individuals can lead to very complex evolutions. Therefore, competition, even just with ourselves, feedback and control stimulate the primary instinct of the human being. And this can be found in almost every field today. This is in itself an emerging sociological behavior typical of our times. Okay. On the other hand, it's like the question of the invisible that moves more than visible. I'm referring to software, but to code, but I can also refer to a bacterium, a virus, a cell, a synapses. What seemed to upset our mind had the appearance of the gigantic, of the titanic, of the enormous, of a big machine. And this is probably partly true, but we hadn't reckoned enough with the teeny, the invisible, the hidden. What transforms a single element, behavior, single phenomenon, impulse into something titanic, great, pandemic. What the code and all the implications related to the code has highlighted today is the emergence of new relational devices. This, in turn, pushed the formation of new social phenomena. For example, epistemic bubble, echo chambers, denials, conspiracy, rejection of science, etc. In this escalation of epiphenomena, the role of the culture and in particular the role of the art lies in showing what is hidden from us by power through the tools of power. This obviously also concerns the question of identity, of the relationship between identities, of the recognition of the other, in a framework in which the intervention of technological devices, big data, artificial intelligence, machine learning, is still in a phase of fascination. But the character of control is already in place, and it is up to us to give the right framing to objects that could become hyper objects, to use a word by Timothy Morton. Reflecting on emerging behavior today also means reflecting on the emergence of new social phenomena derived from devices we use every day. And it's clear how, considering hyper objects, it's almost natural also to speak about hyper subjects. In fact, during the 20th century, after Romanticism, with the birth of novel, psychoanalysis, philosophy of mind and language, the subject was at the center of of every speculative debate, therefore also in art. Today, the discussion around the subject must necessarily be increased. or augmented. The contemporary subject not only includes issues related to gender or political identity, but also includes digital identity, cyber identity, social media identities, artificial identities. In this regard, of course, the concept of mind covers all these issues. In the Anthropocene era, post-human theories try to clarify exactly these difficulties of redefining the subject and therefore the human being and therefore the mind. In this sense, the hyper subject is also the result of the devices this kind of subject uses, from domotics to geolocalization to surveillance systems to wearable technologies or computerized care system, etc. In this regard, I'd like to bring this presentation to a close with the words of Deleuze. He wrote, "We belong to and act within device. What we call the actuality of a device, our actuality, is the novelty of a device in relation to the former devices. The newest one is the actual one. Actual is not what we are, but what we are becoming. The other, our becoming other. It is sine qua non, this distinction in the whole device between what we are, what we will no longer be, and what we are becoming. The former belongs to history and the latter is the actual part. History is a file, an outline of what we are now and of what we no longer are, while the actual part is a sketch of that into which we are becoming." Thank you.